Forget gurus. Forget anyone claiming to be an online business expert without going through the challenges of entrepreneurship themselves. The Real Money, Real Business podcast is here to prove the best insights in online business comes from your fellow online business builders. We dig into stories of entrepreneurs selling their business on the Empire Flippers marketplace so that you can learn how they made their business profitable, how they overcame obstacles, and what lessons they learned in their online journey. If you want to take your business and your knowledge to the next level, you've come to the right podcast. Let's get started.
Hey everyone, Brandon here with another great business to discuss on this episode of the Real Money, Real Business podcast. Today's guest is Paul, and he's selling his Amazon KDP business on the Empire Flippers marketplace. So welcome to the show, Paul, and how are you doing today?
Great. Thank you, Brandon. Excited to be here.
Yeah, it's really nice having you on the call, and I'm excited to talk to you about this business you've created. But I will just go into a quick summary of the business first before we get into the interview questions. So the business is an Amazon KDP business in the culinary niche, and it was created in October 2016. The average monthly revenue for the business is $9,808 per month and makes an average of $5,061 per month in net profit. For everyone listening, you can visit the empireflippers.com/marketplace URL and search for listing 47235 to learn more about the business or place a refundable deposit to start your due diligence if you're interested in purchasing this asset. So now that I've given you a general overview of the business, let's go ahead and see what is included with the sale. So the assets included are an Amazon KDP account with 2 author profiles, the primary domain and all site content and files, an additional domain that's used as a 301 redirect, 23 ebooks, 26 paperback and hardback books, 3 audiobooks with an ACX account included, an email list with 4,000 subscribers from GetResponse, a copyright, and also SOPs for publishing new books and freelance work operations, as well as a Facebook account. So, Paul, can you tell me a little bit about your background in building and running online businesses?
Yeah, of course. So I used to work for a marketing firm about 3 to 4 years ago. And perhaps like a lot of people really wanted to be your own boss, work from anywhere, the laptop lifestyle, which I think as a lot of people come to see that's not always necessarily true. It's actually a bit more stressful being your own boss. So I started looking around at online businesses, started with some drop shipping, some other Amazon bits and pieces, some eBaying, but finally settled on KDP, so Kindle Publishing. So I found a mentor and it really started taking off for about 1.5 years into the business. So as with anything, it's hard to try and get it off the ground. But after about a year or two, it started to take off to the point where I could actually make a full-time income from it.
And then now, so, how does this business primarily make money? Is it one specific type of book that's generating most of the revenue, or are they all pretty well spread across the hardbacks and some of the ebooks as well?
So as with most nonfiction, it tends to be the paperback. They will account for about 80% of the sales. The ebooks, say about 20%, maybe 17%, and then the ACX, the audiobooks, about 3%. I was just testing audiobooks, but not many people would like to buy cookery books in audio format. They do sell a little bit, but not many. So in terms of the actual number of books, so about 50% of the sales come from about 7 or 8 of the titles. So it's around sort of the 20-80 rule that you will find that the majority of your sales will come from a very small selection of your products.
Yeah, that makes sense. And so why was it that you decided to go into this specific niche then once you decided to get into the KDP business model itself?
About 3 or 4 years ago, I really wanted to do something which I actually had an interest in. So rather than creating books on something completely irrelevant, something that I couldn't really get into as such, I wanted to go into a health niche and then drill down into what was popular at the time, what was coming up, and then started building on the work that I'd done before and just started building up an authority in the niche.
And then so now, Paul, why is it that you've decided to go ahead and sell this business at this current time?
So I'm currently working on some software. It's a third-party app, which, as I've recently found out, developers are extremely expensive. In order to fund the next business, I'm looking to take some money off the table and then restart to build into this next business. It's another venture.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. And, I completely understand you on the side of, developers, costing a lot of money. It's not exactly an easy skill to learn, that's for sure. Now, was there anything that you happen to have learned while building and growing this business that you plan on applying to future sites?
Definitely building an audience. So, as with any business, actually building a community, actually being in contact with your customers. So, the email list that I built up over the years, that's a really good example that we have monthly newsletters. And I'm really going to take that forward into the next business in terms of actually really maintaining contact with and actually building a strong presence and a strong brand and really building relationships with customers.
So then now, on the topic of building that audience, where does the majority of your traffic to your account come from then? Are you running a few PPC ads on Amazon, or is a majority of your traffic coming from organic search?
Yeah, with the email list, they are opt-ins. 99% come from Amazon. So within each book, there's a reader magnet inside, which will then attract people to sign up, then go through an autoresponder and they're put on an email list, which really helps with launching new books. I've done affiliate marketing in the past. In terms of actual traffic on Amazon, I invest heavily in PPC advertising on the Amazon platform. That's where most of the sales are driven, but some of the books actually do get very good organic traffic as well.
So are you doing any other forms of marketing? I noticed that you do have a Facebook account. Are you, targeting any traffic from those social media profiles, or is a majority of the stuff coming from Amazon themselves?
So I'd say 90% of my efforts are on Amazon. They are through the PPC advertising. We use Facebook more of a way of communicating with the customers. So I have a virtual assistant who is also the writer who manages the newsletter, and she deals with all of the customer service as well. So it's responding to emails, sending out the newsletter, responding to Facebook messages, which we get a fair few each week. So that just people engaged. And we also announce launches on there, so new book launches. And we also ask for beta testers for the new books, but advice on which covers they think are best. So actually engaging with the audience on Facebook rather than actually driving traffic from Facebook to Amazon. So I would see that as a potential big opportunity for the next buyer, potentially PPC advertising.
Yeah, no, definitely. And then on the subject of advertising and things that have been working, what would you say a few things that you might have tried and just didn't get the ROI you were expecting from your, attempts at trying something different?
Yeah, so I've done a lot of, as mentioned, PPC advertising on Amazon, and that works very well. I have tried it on Facebook as well, but I think that's definitely a different skill set, which I don't possess at the moment in terms of the sales funnel is extremely different to Amazon. At the moment, I'm testing some book advertising as well. So that seems to be going, let's say, okay, but it's a bit too early to actually determine if that's working or not.
That makes sense. And then, hypothetically speaking, Paul, if you were to keep this business, what are some of the ways that you would personally try and grow it?
So the very first thing I would do would be to optimize the mailing list. So 4,000 people is a lot of people to be on a mailing list. So the newsletter goes out every single Friday. So I'd definitely be looking to include some affiliate marketing in there. Again, this sales funnel, and I think it's a different skill set from what I have at the moment. I have done minimal amounts in the past and generated 500-600 a month, but not on a consistent basis. So that would be the very first thing I would attempt to monetize. In terms of the books themselves and extra books, I have just this month translated 5 of the books into Spanish and into German, and they are doing surprisingly well. So where the Spanish you can advertise obviously in the US, also on Spain as well. And again, that seems to be doing surprisingly well. And the German actually, again, is doing surprisingly well. So with the opportunity of A, more books being translated, and B, at the moment, Italy and France, 2 markets that I haven't touched yet.
Yeah, that's a really, great opportunity for a potential buyer to look at and consider when, doing their due diligence and looking at this business in whole. Now, on the flip side of that now, what do you feel are maybe some of the potential risks a buyer should be aware of with this business?
what I would suggest with any Amazon account, you are playing by Amazon's rules, and Amazon can change those rules at any time. I'm a member of a lot of seller forums, and just sellers who lose their products receive warnings from Amazon, and the same with KDP accounts that I've seen sellers warned about reviews, potentially doing review swaps even when they might not have done them, and just a lot of, I suppose you are playing in Amazon's playground. So in the past, for example, I think this was about 3 years ago, I received a copyright notice claim. And even though I had actually written the book entirely myself, that very first one, all the rest of them have been written by the same writer, that they just wouldn't believe me that I'd written this book myself. So following on from that, every single book that is written and produced is filed for copyright. So anytime that Amazon have questioned whether copyright to a book, that all of the copyrights are official, and that seems to put them at ease.
Yeah, that's really good to hear that you've already figured out a system to kind of alleviate that issue from ever, really potentially poking its head out again. Now, can you describe, some of the typical work that you're doing on a weekly basis for the business at this time?
So it depends on the process or the stage of the book production. So we tend to go for higher quality books rather than pumping out books like kind of weekly or monthly basis. So our current aim is usually every 2 to 3 months we'll produce a book. So if it's in the stage of writing, there's minimal things for me to do. But as it comes up to the end of writing, we then have an editor involved. We then have an interior design agency involved. So for me, that's the project management of some slight quality control and also passing the moving bits around, and also making sure it gets uploaded to KDP, as well as creating advertising for it. So that would happen about once every 2 to 3 months. Aside from that, it's really trying to manage the PPC advertising. So we do use automation in 3 of the markets. So in Canada, in the UK, and in the US, we use PrestaZon, which automates the bidding, automates keywords promotion. In the other 2 markets, they're not quite big enough to warrant that expense yet. But I usually spend about half a day a week, usually managing, just making sure that nothing's getting too out of control and just optimizing the PPC advertising.
Okay. Now, do you feel there's maybe another, additional skill set that's required from a buyer to purchase this, aside from, knowing a little bit about PPC advertising, or maybe just managing a few VAs on the side?
So certainly the PPC advertising would be extremely helpful. If you had experience with Amazon as a seller or even KDP, that would be helpful. And although getting to know their systems is not too arduous, it's quite quick and easy, and Amazon tends to make these things quite intuitive. Project management would be helpful in terms of moving the different parts around. I think in order to really kind of make it grow and potentially to grow it exponentially, having a wide view of marketing, so coming back to potential affiliate marketing, so knowing how to work different sales funnels, Facebook PPC advertising would be fantastic as well, and I think is a massive opportunity. I also think if you were able to manage teams, so whereby other writers could be involved potentially to speed up the books or to produce more books, or potentially produce them under different names, which then could still utilize the email listing, because the email listing creates a fantastic platform for launching new books. And I've considered this in the past, not just for existing pen names, but also for similar pen names in similar genres.
Yeah, that makes total sense. And, it's a lot of low-hanging fruit that a potential buyer could come in and really, grow this business and scale it to its full potential. Now, Paul, are you willing to commit to a non-compete, meaning with your future businesses or the SaaS business, you'll stay out of this specific niche?
I am indeed. It's not KDP is not a business which I wish to focus on, certainly in the near future while I've got this app development happening. So yes, I'll definitely be assigning a non-compete clause.
That's great. And then, how much support are you willing to offer potential buyers? Are you going with the typical 30 days of email and Skype support, or did you have something in addition you would like to add on to that?
So the typical 30 days would mean that we've currently got a book in production. So I think ideally it would be 2 months, which would be enough to see a book from start to finish into production. So obviously that wouldn't be extreme hand-holding, but to be available for those 2 months for questions and queries as they come up. In saying that, we do have the writer who's been working with me for 3 years now and has written the majority of the books. So she is excellent at knowing all the processes and how to do things. And also we have an editor who's absolutely fantastic. She does the book descriptions. The interior designer, again, is absolutely fantastic. He designs it's an agency which designs the interiors for the paperbacks and also produces the ebooks as well. And I'm tending towards 99 designs at the moment for the covers. So that's the kind of the nutshell and the team. But outside of that, I think having 2 months worth of support just to answer questions would be definitely warranted.
And then I don't know if we really touched base on this, which, off the top of my head, I don't think we did. Is that VA team that you currently have utilizing a lot of the tasks for the business, are they going to be continuing on with the new buyer?
Yes, absolutely. Everyone is excited to continue with the business.
Perfect. That's really great to hear. And, I'm sure a potential buyer listening to this call can also see the value in already having those systems in place that you've already created for them, making the ease of the transition at least a little bit easier for them, taking on this business. Now, Paul, are you open to something like an earnout where, potential buyer looking at this business might give you a large portion of the sales price up front and then smaller payments over the course of a few months after that?
I'd be strongly in favor of an all cash buyout, just in terms of, say, the new business, which demands a little bit of capital, it's a little bit capital intensive. So yeah, cash buyout would be strongly preferred, but I wouldn't be against the idea.
Okay. Yeah, it's something that can always be discussed during negotiations. Now, so just a few more sideline questions for you, Paul. Now, is there anyone who inspired you while you were building this business that our listeners might like as well?
So back in the early days, Stefan Palernos I think he was a big, I would say, a mentor to a lot of people who started his KDP program. I think since then, a lot of people have gone on and off of his programs, but just what he's doing in the internet space is absolutely remarkable, and it really hats off to what he's doing there.
Oh, that's awesome. Now, is there any advice that you would give to our listeners that you wish you knew when you started this KDP business?
Yes. So the very start, a lot of people tended to choose niches which were hot or they knew nothing about, and they would just scattergun approach about all of their different niches. So you produce 10 books, but you produce 10 books in 10 completely different niches. I'd always recommend, if you go, rather than going wide, go long and narrow. So drill down into the niche, start building relationships, start building an authority, start producing books mainly within that niche, and your life will become so much easier in terms of that flywheel effect that you can build up an email list, you can build up communications, you can sell more books to your existing customers. So always try and build up an authority and relationships with your customers as you go from the very start as well.
Yeah, no, really solid, advice is something that we also discuss as far as when it comes to even building businesses and online assets, to definitely focus on one gives you the better, chance of an ROI than trying to spread yourself too thin. Now, was there any software tools or maybe communities that really helped you at the start of running this business?
At the very start, so the community, there's some fantastic Facebook groups out there. If you're into PPC, if you just type in author PPC, there's a really good one with Brian Meeks. And there's also a fantastic one, I think it's called Optimizing Amazon Ads, and I think they've changed to Optimizing Facebook ads as well. I mean, wealth of knowledge in there. In terms of the software, I think just the project management software has been immense for me, using Trello just to keep track of everything. And then coming down to the MailChimp in terms of a free email list builder. I do use GetResponse now as a more holistic suite, but just collecting emails as you go from the very start has been one of the best things I've done in the business.
Yeah, it's really solid information, and something that, I also enjoy. Some automated email campaigns is just only going to make your life that much easier. Was there, anything that really drove or motivated you while you were, growing this business, Paul?
Seeing the fact that you could make money online. It was always traditionally that you would sit in a 9 to 5 job and earn money at the end of the month. But just making that first $100, $200, even $10, that was a really good feeling. I mean, as you obviously grow bigger, but you get used to it because it becomes your full-time job, your full-time income. But that kind of mind shift at the very start was extremely satisfying, that the fact that you've given value over the internet and somebody's appreciated that value and then given you value in return was something which was quite mind-blowing at the time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. And so why do you think that this business model is great for those who are interested in getting started in online businesses?
The learning curve is relatively shallow, and the investment required relative to something like Fulfilled by Amazon or selling anything else on Amazon is relatively low. So, I mean, my books tend to be on the more expensive side, but I have had success, particularly in the beginning, where you have to keep your budgets low. And for $200, $300, $400, you could create something of good value. I mean, a lot of it was done myself, but then you're talking covers and things as well. So it's a really good entry point into, let's say, the world of internet and entrepreneurialism, to be able to, let's say, just test your feet in without overly committing yourself. So with an Amazon seller, you might have to buy several tens, 20, 50,000 worth of product before you can start it. So it's a really good entry point into a lot of online business types.
Yeah, definitely. It's one thing that always stood out to me about the Amazon KDP business model as well is, all of the things that you've just mentioned. Now, putting yourself in the shoes of a buyer, Paul, why do you think this business is worth buying?
Mostly because I've taken a very different approach to this business to others. So I've focused on high quality books. So each book will, in terms of their production, it takes about 2 to 3 months. It can cost about $800 to produce that one book, but that book will keep on selling. So my bestseller I produced in 2017, and that continues to be my bestseller today. So I'm not attempting to keep churning out book after book after book. I'm attempting to actually build something which, even if you didn't produce any more books, you could look at the numbers on the paper and those shouldn't decline over time. You could still keep the advertising going. And because of the quality books and the numbers of the reviews, a lot of the books have got well over 100 reviews, or 4 stars or 4.5 stars and above. So it is the quality of the portfolio is there to keep generating royalties outside of producing even new books.
Yeah, no, that's definitely a really great opportunity. I'm sure, any potential buyers that are listening in on this call and, doing their due diligence, looking at this business can really see the opportunity to grow it just even on, some of the few key topics that we've mentioned in this call. So yeah, that's really great. Is there anything else that you'd like to share, Paul, that I might have missed in this interview series?
No, I think that's covered everything. And thank you very much for having me on the show.
Yeah, no, I really appreciate it, Paul. And, I'm looking forward to seeing this listing getting sold for you, in the near future. All right, everyone. Thanks for listening. To learn more and to see if this listing is sold or to place a deposit, head over to empireflippers.com/marketplace and search for listing number 47235. If you're watching this on YouTube, click the link in the description to go straight to the listing. And by placing a refundable deposit, you'll be given everything you need to know about this business. And until next time, enjoy your digital journey.